This is Real Estate Underground. Hey everybody, Ed Matthews here at the Real Estate Underground podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today is actually a really cool show. I am joined by Alex Ilchenko. He is a Connecticut-based real estate investor. But one of the things, I met him through CT RIA about a year and a half ago, right? Right, Alex?
Yep. Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
And just immediately started to admire how he thought about the market and how aggressive he was. And we were talking about his view on the market. And then I started stalking him on Facebook, and I saw deal after deal after deal after deal, and I'm like, wow, this guy is on fire. And so I chased him down and finally admitted that yes, I have been stalking you, Alex, and I apologize for that. But I'm really excited that you're joining us today, and thank you for your time. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Ed.
Yeah. So for those folks out there that don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Alex Ilchenko, originally from Ukraine. I came here when I was about 8 years old, and started living in Brooklyn, New York, and kind of grew up there. Then went to college, got my nursing degree, played Division I tennis for Marist College. And then kind of was working as a registered nurse at Cornell Hospital in New York City. And that's kind of where, when I met my wife, and we lived on the Upper East Side for about 8 years in a studio apartment. And we got a husky, and space was kind of getting tight. So we looked at, different places to move. And we ended up actually moving to her hometown in Connecticut in Suffield.
Okay.
Ended up building a house there, did a few jobs, kept moving up, getting a leadership position in managing inpatient dialysis services at Harvard Hospital, and kind of been here ever since, and always had something in the back of my mind that, I wanted to do something else. I did a lot of different little odd things like, flipping cars, doing some small renovations, and kind of was always intrigued, by real estate, and fast forward to 2019, I actually bought my first property, ended up buying my first property from my attorney.
Really?
And kind of got, a little bit lucky because I kind of started out with an 8-unit building right from day one.
Right.
And then, after a couple of months, realized that, this is something that I'm passionate about, something that I like. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like I can maybe make this a career, and ended up buying another property not too far away in Collinsville, a 4-family.
Sure.
So it was up to 12 units. Didn't know much about real estate, but I knew that I had to network and meet people, and that's how I kind of ended up at CT RIA.
Yeah.
And I had 12 units, but I was still a newbie. I didn't know much. Owned the properties for 6 months.
Right.
So definitely, just started networking, gaining some knowledge. And and then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And I decide, I have 12 units, I don't have, any more money to buy any more units. And, what am I going to do?
Make friends.
So I ended up, networking and just looking for people that, kind of had the same vision. And, if they were looking to invest. And I ended up, finding investors and just, kept buying properties. My first joint venture deal that I did was with, 2 other doctors. We bought actually a mixed use property. It was 11 units, kind of stabilized that. And then, I had to keep going. And then just after that, just, did the same thing. And, right now we're at 130 units.
Wow.
And probably, and I started in 2019. So I kind of, once I found the model that kind of, works for me, and, just kept going, you know. And I actually have some exciting news, Ed. I finally put in my notice for my W-2 job.
You're kidding. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So my last day is actually December 4th, I believe. So right around
Congratulations.
the
Wow.
corner.
How does that
Yeah.
feel?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, this is something that, always wanted to kind of work for myself and kind of do my own thing. And this has been work in the progress since, I finished college. And so I'm super, super excited. And, I'm also excited about the opportunities that where I can, network more and meet other people more
Yeah.
and kind of just, focus on the real estate aspect.
Wow. Congratulations. That is, I've met, I would imagine at this point, it's thousands of people, in the state of Connecticut and elsewhere that have only dreamed to do what you are about to do. So
Yeah.
congratulations. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I knew you were on fire. I had no idea that was a blazing fire.
I
That's
mean,
so
do you
phenomenal.
remember like the first couple of visits I
Yeah.
went to see Tyria and I'm like, Ed, like, how do I do this? Ed, like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, super exciting.
Wow, that's wonderful. So real estate, obviously you're highly educated, you're a really smart guy, you're obviously driven. Real estate is just one asset class, right? And you did frankly what I wish I had done, which was so I started with one multi and then I started flipping houses and then bought another multi and flipped houses and so on. You dove right into the multifamily world, and lucky or not, you got it right. And because people ask me all the time, if I had to do over, what would I do? And I would tell them what, now I'm going to say it's what my friend Alex did, which is buy an 8 unit immediately, right? So what
Yeah.
drew you to the asset class?
It's just I kind of once I bought the 8 family and I bought the 4 family, I really realized that the only you have to really go larger. And going into that multifamily kind of market, because it really takes, whether you have a 4 unit, a 6 unit, or an 8 unit, it's really the same process, right? You do your inspections, you get your mortgage, you get everything lined up, you have your tenants, and the amount of work that it takes to manage a 4, 6, 8 family, it's the same thing. And I,
Yes.
I kind of, I, yeah, I knew that, like, in order for me to keep going, I had to kind of, go higher, and, as obviously, finding the deals is kind of the toughest part. So, after that, after the 8 and the 4, I just kept growing, and then I got into mixed use and I got into commercial. So, one thing that I really like about real estate is that there's so many different avenues, right?
Right.
As far as, the asset class, and, everybody kind of does it a little bit different, and it works for every single person so differently. So, and that's kind of what I love, is that everybody's kind of doing their own thing and kind of doing what works for them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the nice part.
Absolutely. And so, you're at 119 units. And so what's next? Like, where are you taking this business?
Yeah, so I want to kind of, in about 2020, I started, my company, Blue Key Property Group, and, trying to really build a team of people that are like-minded. And basically, right now we have different avenues. So we're trying to, have a team that does acquisitions, have a team that does, property management, have a team that does only the management piece, have a team that does retail. So I'm trying to really build a brand and really venture out into multiple different areas so that I can kind of, tackle the market
Yeah.
from, different, new sides. So, and, a lot of people like ask me, oh, like, like, how do you do it? Or, and I always tell people, like, the way I do it might not be the best way for you,
Right.
and I think there's, there's just so many different avenues and so many different opportunities. And, there's really enough, units and enough deals and enough, opportunities for everyone, and
Big world out
every,
there, right?
yeah, and everybody, can get into it, and that's the fun part.
So what does the end game look like? I like here at Clark Street, I
Yeah.
tell people, okay, we're going to do 1,000 units by 25, right? That's the
Okay.
goal. So
Yeah.
what are you shooting for?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really, I don't think I have an end game, because, I love it so much. And I actually kind of, I go to bed and, on my days off, I can't wait to wake up and just hit running,
Yeah,
check up on my properties, check all the financials, look at deals, look at properties, underwrite deals. So it's really not even a job for me because
right.
it's something that I'm so passionate and I can do it 24/7. I wish I could. There's just, I got to get some sleep.
Yeah, you require sleep, right?
And
And you're a
it's,
husband, so you've got,
yeah,
you got a family to hang out with, right? So
yeah,
that's exactly right.
definitely.
Yeah,
But it's also work-life balance, like you said,
yeah,
family. But I really don't feel like I'm ever at work when I'm talking about real estate, when I'm, meeting people, when I'm checking up on my properties, when we're
yeah.
doing renovations. It's just, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. So, it's an amazing thing when you go out on your own and you play Cortez and burn those boats, as they say. And the other part of it though is the time aspect of it, right? You're able to own your own time. No one has access to your schedule to make you, have to go to a meeting or a conference or something like that. You are intentional with exactly how you spend your days, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all about freedom, right? It's never about
Absolutely.
money, right? So it's always about freedom. And I don't know what the end goal is, but I think like, building that, just building a really good model and building a brand, right? So
Yeah.
it's not always about, okay, 500 units, 200 units, 1,000 units. I think it's just about, building that model and streamlining things where you can continue to build and grow,
Yep.
whether it's, buying more units, whether it's developing, building buildings, building, a wholesale kind of division. So there's just so many commercial, I mean, there's just so many opportunities that I still want to do, and I'm still kind of fresh and, learning, that it's just you're always kind of want to keep going.
So basically, what you're telling me is that we're catching you at the early stages of an empire that you're building.
I hope so. I
Yeah, I
hope
hope
so.
so
I
too.
mean, I'm just like I said, I'm just like everybody else, who's just, trying to make it. And,
Yep.
it's not easy of, going by yourself. You got to think about insurance and you got to make sure you have, money in the bank to pay a mortgage.
Yep.
And you have to make sure that, all those things are in place, versus having a W-2 when, every other Friday your check is deposited and your mortgage goes out, right?
Right.
Your insurance is paid, your vacation, your holiday time, your sick time, right?
Right.
So there's definitely a lot that goes into it. And that's kind of why I waited, to get so far into just to make sure that I can replace my income. So I'm making the
Yep.
right decision. And,
Right.
I came to a point where I just couldn't do both. And it wasn't fair for, my employer. It wasn't fair to my wife. It wasn't fair to, my tenants, my employees. It just wasn't fair. And I had to make a decision, and, it wasn't easy.
Yeah. It wasn't easy, but you're all smiles here. So
Yeah,
there's some part of you that was pretty sure which way
yeah,
you were going to go, right?
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
cool. So I want to talk about your brand and what your vision is and what you want the company to stand for, and what is your focus when you take over a building? How do you operate?
Yeah, so we lately, we've done a lot of value add buildings.
Mhm.
I think that's really, the way to go, really the way to start. I really like, the process, right? You go into, building, maybe you don't have such good tenants, you don't have such a good building.
Yeah.
The building needs a lot of updates, it needs a lot of renovations, and you're able to kind of, take silver and turn into gold.
Right.
And that, that whole kind of process and starting, doing the demo and, renovating. And, I really probably do a little bit more than, a lot of people, but I really am passionate about it. And I really get a lot of joy, from the finished product. And I really pick everything, from A to Z, and I have to make sure that I'm happy with it at the end before I, turn it over to a tenant. So
Yeah.
I'm probably not the best example, as far as like return on investment, but, I really like the process and just making it look really nice.
Yeah, and I've seen your work online, and
Yeah.
I think you and I, one of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation is I think you and I operate very similarly, right? I mean, our first move when we buy a property is similar to yours in that, first move is to make it clean and safe, right? And so you upgrade the common areas, you make sure the MEP is the mechanicals, electrical, plumbing is all safe and working properly, and then you beautify from there, right? And I think that the way you operate is smart in that residents are going to be happier in your building because your buildings are really nice, right? And most likely it's one of, if not the nicest building in the neighborhood, which then builds a brand around each individual building. And what I've seen, and I'm curious what you've seen, tenants tend to stay longer in buildings where they're happy and proud to live, right?
Yeah, definitely. I really try to, I look for, B minus, B plus areas.
Yep.
I look for, good tenants. During COVID, I probably, 99% of the people paid, I didn't have any issues.
Same.
I really have a lot of really long-term tenants. One of my oldest tenants is 24 years old, 24 years in the building.
Yeah.
So I have tenants from, some are 10 years, some are 15 years. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do is kind of, make sure to provide that kind of service that they can, stay there, long term.
Yeah.
So I think, turnover is really important because, every time you have a turnover, not only are you spending money, you're spending time,
Yeah.
and, it's hard, so I really try to keep the rents, a little bit lower than the market rents, so that, tenants stay there longer, because every turnover you have, you lose 1 month of rent. You have to paint the apartment, you're updating the apartment, and it's just, every single turnover probably costs you, 4,000. You lose at least a month's of rent. You have to paint the unit, update it, and it's just not worth it. So I
Right.
think, my model is just to, obviously be competitive, but also give them, the opportunity and incentive to stay, in the unit. So
Smart. Smart.
yeah.
So I'm curious about your philosophy in general. The I'm always fascinated by people that I meet like you who are super successful and firing on all cylinders. And I'm curious in your mind, what separates you and people like you from the people that kind of dream about, man, I wish I had 119 units. I wish I was able to do this. What separates the dreamers from the guy's name Alex?
Yeah, I think it's just, you have to be able to, submit an offer and, make a deal. I think that the toughest part, I think a lot of people hesitate and overthink, things. And, I think you definitely have to be patient, especially in this market. But I think you have to know when you have the right deal. You have to be able to have a vision. And, once you have that, you have to go for it. You
Yep.
can't sit on the sidelines, and, it's gonna work out, right? It's real estate. You're buying it. Especially if you're buying it for long term,
Mhm.
you know, it's going to work out. So I think it's just that I think you just have to be able to go out there and just, make the move, and I think a lot of people are, a little bit more hesitant. And, I try to do my research, and, when I see that building or that property or that opportunity, and, especially when I can add value to it and
Yeah.
create something better, something bigger, I just go for it. And I think that's key. I think a lot of people are just, I'm just able to get, in front of them. While people are thinking, I'm getting deals under contract, same properties, right? So they
Yeah.
want to look at a property, I want to look at a property, they're thinking, I'm signing the contract. So I think you really have to, you really have to be the first person in the door. You have to be the first person to make the offer and get it under contract. So I think that's kind of what I try to do. I want to be the first one and have a
My
preference.
grandfather always used to tell me, always present a moving target, right?
Yeah,
Act,
yeah,
get moving, go,
yeah, yeah.
right?
So like like I said, where everybody I think is kind of looking at, the same deals, the same properties. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a very small network, small,
sure.
area that we're targeting, and you just have to be in the front, and kind of be able and be ready to make a deal. And everything is a risk, right? So
Sure.
every deal that I do, it's like, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Am I doing
Yeah,
the right
man.
thing? Like, what's the capex? How much money is this really the right deal? Why are they selling? Like, why are they selling? Right? But you have to be able to kind of, get through that. And, if it looks good to you, if it feels good to you, trust your gut, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes I'm like, this is not right. I'm gonna just walk away, right? So just trust your gut, and if you feel like that it's the right deal, just go for it,
yeah.
so
So yeah, I tell people all the time that my hand shakes on every contract I sign, right? And
yeah,
it should. It's a
definitely.
lot of responsibility. But the fact is that, like you, I sign it. I don't wait. I don't analyze it, beyond what, the normal due diligence. And actually, that's one of the things that I'd like to briefly talk about is, when you're looking at a property, what is kind of the criteria? What's the box that you tend to target?
Yeah, I mean, for us, because I do have, a lot of investors. I mean, I
Yeah,
think for them, it's always the bottom line
yeah,
and the numbers. For me, it's more about the building, the property, the location, the tenants. So those are kind of the two different avenues, but
yeah,
definitely the numbers have to work, right?
yeah.
So, my criteria is probably, cash on cash around 10% or
Okay.
more, and IRR probably, 20 plus.
Right.
It's got to work. Sometimes I look at people, at deals, and people are, spending money, and I just never get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really make sense. I mean, you have to really, make sure that, what you're looking for is what you're getting. And if
Right.
if you need the property to cash flow, make sure that you're underwriting your property, correctly. But there's just so many people out of state that are buying in Connecticut where a cap rate of 3 is good for them, or
Right.
4,
Those darn
so
suckers.
you really can't compete with those guys, and you just have to walk away,
Yeah.
because it
There's,
just it doesn't work.
it's interesting. I saw over the last like 3 or 4 years here in Connecticut in particular, I refer to it as dumb money, but that actually is kind of disrespectful, and I don't mean to be. The fact is that people look at they come from Manhattan or, New York or the Boston area looking to invest in Connecticut. And like you said, they're used to seeing a 3 cap, and
Yeah.
they're investing in that. So they get here, and it's anywhere from a 5.5 to a 7.5, call it, depending on the neighborhood and the property. And they think it's a deal, right? And the challenge is, though, New York, Boston, a lot of the larger metro areas, they're appreciation markets, right? Where you can not only force appreciation, but cap rates tend to compress over the course of time anyway, just naturally. Connecticut historically has not been that, right? Connecticut has been a cash flow market, right?
Yeah,
And
correct.
so, when I refer to dumb money, I think about, them going and buying a 5 cap here in Connecticut, thinking that it's going to naturally appreciate like it does in Manhattan. Not the same thing.
Right, exactly. I think you're spot on. I totally agree. I think, we don't have that, appreciation here in Connecticut. Obviously, after COVID and after inflation, everything kind of, increased, but that's
That's
really,
fun.
not typical for the real estate market
Right.
here. And I think we're in a tough market. You have a lot of people that are pulling a lot of money, from the stock market
Yeah.
and getting into, multifamily and getting into real estate, and they just need to park their money somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think, but that's kind of what's happening. And it's just, you have to just, be able to just walk away from those deals and,
Right.
find something, find something that, works better for you.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. We have a buy box and we stay inside that box. And if it deviates in any way, shape, or form, no deal. We walk away.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
sometimes it's frustrating for the brokers that we work with, in that I give them I give them our offer, and they said, no, I need your best and final. And I try to explain them, I understand I'm lower than you'd want, but that is my best and final. That's where it cash flows. And
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, know your numbers and like really know what your best offer is,
right on, right on,
and it's okay to walk away.
totally.
I probably, I to be honest, I probably put at least one offer a week, right?
You
And I
really? Wow,
only
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
and I probably only, out of every 50 offers, I probably get one or two,
Yeah,
so,
that's
that's kind of
okay.
my goal. Yeah, that's okay.
That's
Yeah,
how it's done.
you're not going to get every property, and that, that's okay. Just be able to, walk away, and then you got to just keep trying.
Yeah,
You got to keep trying. It's just, it's a contact sport, right?
right.
So you got to keep contacting the sellers, and you got to keep making the offers, and, 1 out of 10 is you're going to get the deal.
Right. And you've got to, as they say, kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince or princess, right? And
Definitely.
I liken it to at least my dating career, where I would ask, people out. I would ask a girl out, and I'd get, 10, 12, 15 no's before I found that princess, right? And so you never know, right? But the same goes for a building. So
Yeah.
um,
And, build your team,
right
build
on.
your team, build with the people that, you trust. I'm a big, fanatic of, partnerships.
Yeah.
I have many partnerships, and, make sure you have the right, right realtor, right wholesaler, and if your realtor is telling you that, your offer is too low, then maybe you need to find a different realtor,
Right.
because
Yeah. It's not you. It
there's
may not be you, right?
yeah, there's no such a thing as a, a bad offer. You're willing to pay for the property. That's what you're willing to pay, and this is why,
Right.
so if somebody's trying to tell you that you have to pay more, or your offer is not good enough, you just move on to the next one.
That's okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right on. So, so I'm curious about, I've been fortunate, and I think you've been fortunate with a lot of the people that you've met. And so I'm curious about mentors and the people who have influenced your life. What's the most, what's the best advice you've ever received? And I'm curious who gave it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I honestly never had, like a true mentor, that, that kind of, mentored me. And I think it's always something good to have. My mentor and kind of has been, my attorney, who, I bought the first property from.
Yeah, that's a
And
good one.
yeah, and he kind of, kind of coached me through, um, managing it for, the first couple of months. And then I kind of, I always, he's always been in real estate, and he's had many units. And I think we joke around that I surpassed him like after 1 year, so, yeah, so he's been kind of, my mentor, go-to person. I think you have to, have a team, right? So
Right.
I've used the same, home inspector for every single property that I bought since day one. I used the same attorney, since day one. The first bank that I used, I did, 8 deals with them until they cut me off, and they said they won't let me any more money. So I had to find, I
Became
had
too
to
big.
find, a different lender.
Right.
I have a full-time, handyman, right?
Right.
Project manager. So he manages, the construction and, my project. So I think, just having that team, and honestly, like he's kind of, been my mentor. And, he's, his advice is kind of always like, if it works, just go for it.
Right.
If the numbers work, if, real estate, it's, just as long as you did your numbers, you underwrote the deal, and you have to make sure that you have capex for the property, right? So for every single property, you have a backup plan, and if something, happens, that you have reserves, and you can go ahead and fix that. And, you can't really, lose. Over time, the property is going to increase in value if it's a
Sure.
long-term play. And I think, most of us are kind of going for long-term versus short-term. So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, so
Time is
I think,
absolutely your friend.
yeah,
You're spot
and
on with that.
yeah, and sometimes it takes, 6 months to stabilize a property. Sometimes it takes 12 months, but at the end of the day, it's gonna play out. So
Right. Right. Fantastic. So, obviously you're, like I said earlier, you're well educated and you're clearly a smart guy. So I'm curious how you consume information, whether it's like podcasts or audiobooks or, you read the old school tactile paper books or, and who
yeah.
you paying attention to these days?
Yeah, I'm actually so yeah, there's a lot of different avenues, right? So
Sure.
definitely, I mean, podcasts are awesome, right? YouTube, audiobooks. I still think, the number one is networking, right? That's kind of like you have to really network and you have to build relationships and partners with your vendors, with your contractors, with everyone around you. And kind of actually kind of my next kind of thing is syndicating larger deals that are
Yeah.
like 100 units and 200 units.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to a conference on the 5th and 6th in Orlando. So it's
Jake and
the
Gina,
Jake and Gino.
I'm
Yeah.
going too. So I'll see
Oh
you
my
there.
God, that's
I
awesome.
am going to buy you dinner. That's
Awesome. All
fantastic.
right.
All
That's
right.
awesome. That's awesome.
I'm
So
going
yeah,
with Oz
so
Pariser. Absolutely.
yeah, that's awesome. So I'm trying to, now that I'm starting to kind of wind down from my W-2 job. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of looking, to grow and learn more and do bigger deals.
Okay.
So I feel like that I can, continue to learn and use some of that information. And you always can, take some information and maybe not other. And I think utilizing that, in this area, at least for now, and, syndicating the deals, so doing larger deals, I think that's key. And, so far, I've been doing, my largest deal was like 29 units where I bought a portfolio, but I'm really looking to do, like 50 unit building, 100 unit building, and just, be able to learn and kind of syndicate.
It's the same motion, like you said earlier, right? It's whether you're buying a 50 unit building or a 10 unit building, it's the exact same process.
Exactly, exactly. So.
Right. So let me ask you this. So I've really enjoyed talking with you today, Alex. Um, when I'm just curious, when you're not talking about real estate, although I have a feeling you're mostly talking about real estate, what else do you like to do?
Yeah, so not lately. I've been so kind of busy. I'm still trying to, take vacations. I think that's super important. It's been kind of hard to do things outside of my personal job and my real estate job, and I think, some people don't understand. They look at you and they're like, "Oh, you have 50 units or 100 units," but they don't understand what it really takes, and
Actually hard,
the sacrifices that
right?
you have to make, with your family, with your time, with your life,
Right.
and what toll that it takes. And I think that people on the kind of sidelines, they look at it and they think, oh, like, it's easy, or
Yeah.
like, oh, he got lucky, or but people don't realize how much work it takes. So I have a lovely wife that I love. We have a husky. So
Now
he's
enjoying a
kind
lot
of,
more room.
yeah, so he's kind of like, our baby.
Yep.
So vacations, we love to go out for dinner. That's kind of like our thing.
Yeah.
We always have dinner together when if it's at home, or we go out. Um, I try to play tennis, have been trying to get to the gym, but it's been really hard. I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning and working before I go to
Right.
work. And then after work, I'm
You
checking
work.
out on my projects, and
Right.
then I'm coming after, and then I got to do paperwork. So I think,
Right.
the only kind of time that we get to enjoy is kind of, dinner time, and
Yeah.
that's what we kind of try to do. But I'm hoping it's going to get a little bit easier after, December 4th, and I can kind
You
of,
know,
you know,
I'm going to give you a bit of a warning. So the thing is that so I left corporate America in February 2nd of 2018, and I figured, wow, I'm going to have, 50, 60, 70 hours a week where I'm going to have nothing to do, right? You fill it immediately with real estate stuff.
Oh,
Instantaneous,
definitely. I
right?
took a vacation for 2.5 weeks, and we were
Yeah.
actually supposed to travel to Korea for vacation, and
Nice.
yeah, and it didn't end up working. And those 2.5 weeks, I worked more than I ever worked.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely there's definitely always so much to do and so much
Right.
to learn that you're kind of always working.
Yeah. So Alex, if people want to learn more about your business or reach out to you and either give you a pat on the back or find out how they can invest in your projects, what is the best way to reach you?
Best way, you can always email me at alex@bluekeypropertygroup.com, or you can always reach out to me, my personal cell phone. It's 860-494-3472. That's 860-494-3472. And
Right.
I'm always looking, to meet, new people, and, create, partnerships.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for your time today. It's a, I was fired up when I came into this conversation, and now I'm beyond fired up. I'm inspired by how hard you've worked and how far you've come in a really short period of time. So congratulations, and I'll see you in Florida.
Awesome. Thank you
All right,
so much, and
all
always
right.
a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Alex.
Thank
Alex
you.
Ilchenko, everybody.
Thank you.